Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scott Pollack, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago, reporting. Welcome to another edition of the Goldwater Report. Thanks again for tuning us in, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. We'll briefly mention to go over to the head page of the Critical Post and click an ad to support us. Today's report and opinion surrounds around Britain's exit from the EU, branded in the church of the media, the dumbed-down phrase Brexit. Ladies and gentlemen, the global regime of economic interdependence uses clandestine operations to defend central bank currencies which are in opposition to each other in the interests of their respective private sectors within each given geography. The effort to wage war has been merged with economic stratagems, while using some military activity of ground war to keep the world's public distracted by their respective governments, which in the end have morphed into uber corporate superstates with behavior patterns much like their private sector partners. This is worldwide fascism and socialism writ large on the world stage, ladies and gentlemen. And the masterminds pulling the strings have no more clue than any of the rest of you as to what will be the result of any policy emanating from whatever think tank. The following are narratives being foisted upon the people in the UK to foment opinions in opposition to each other. One on the right and one on the left, once again showing revealing the binary nature of opinion consensus linguistic technologies perfected by British intelligence operations during and after World War II to keep the regime in London at the center of worldwide banking operations and as the center for being the central clearinghouse for all Forex transactions worldwide. History knows that Germany is the manufacturing behemoth of the European Union. The euro as a currency is effectually their baby. This is of geopolitical significance. Britain from the beginning resisted giving up on the British pound sterling, which was the reserve currency of the Western civilized world before World War II. After that conflict, the U.S. dollar gained the top spot, leaving Britain to take a secondary role in the rebuilding of Europe and, more importantly, left to occupy itself with rebuilding its own country, while American defensive and offensive hegemony stretched its economic arms around the planet along with its military bases spanning the globe. This American hegemony has had an effect that at its roots is a dichotomy between offense and defense. American clandestine operations, in many cases, has gotten its hand caught in the cookie jar, which revealed the bare underbelly of rogue elements within the bowels of the espionage agencies, like, for instance, the Iran-Contra affair of the Reagan administration, where drug running and weapons trafficking became related to each other for off-the-books operations unknown to the Oval Office on Pennsylvania Avenue, or so they say. Now that's the Cliff Notes backdrop for the following. To know more, the audience is bid to read the unabridged work by Carol Quigley called Tragedy and Hope. You can get that as a free download from the head page of the Critical Post. Now, many will not have the patience to get through a dense informational dump as long as this. It's 1,300 plus pages long, but for those of you who wish to, we are making that work available free of charge. It is also mindful to be aware that Britain is effectually an advanced socialist state with financial capitalism overtones. Nonetheless, here's what the folks in Britain are being told. To stay integrated with the experiment of the EU, the following. The first bullet point in each section is denoted as an argument for staying in the EU, and the opposition is stated in the second place. Number 1, on trade. Folks in favor of remaining say Britain avoids tariffs and red tape. This is important, some officials suggest, because 45% of British exports go to the EU. As a member, Britain can obtain better trade terms because of the EU's size. Here at the Critical Post, we fail to see the rationale for that particular argument. In opposition to this notion, those who wish to leave say Britain will negotiate a new EU relationship without being bound by EU law. They say independently it can secure trade deals with other important countries such as China, India, and America. And we don't see any reason that cannot, in fact, take place. 2, on the budget. Those who remain say that Britain pays the EU 340 British pounds sterling a year per British household, compared with an estimated, they say, £3,000 yearly benefit in excess of the £340 with having a membership. In or out, payment is needed to access Europe's single market. In opposition, those in opposition say Britain can stop sending £350 million, equivalent to half of England's school budget, to Brussels every week. The money could be spent elsewhere, like scientific research and new industries. We would suggest that they prop up their NHS as well. That's the opinion of this anchor desk. 3, on regulation. Most EU regulation collapses, the Remainers say. It collapses 28 national standards into one European standard, reducing red tape and benefiting businesses, they say. So, too, Britain can fight for better regulations. Those in opposition say leaving will return control over areas like employment law and health and safety measures that a recent business for a Britain poll found that UK businesses favored this. 4, on immigration. Those that want to remain say that leaving doesn't mean reduced immigration. Countries that trade with the EU from outside have higher rates of immigration, including the EU countries, than Britain. Well, that's what the argument states. Those who want to leave say that Britain can change the expensive and out-of-control system that offers an open door to the EU and blocks non-EU immigrants who could contribute to the UK. 5, influence. Those who want to remain say that at international summits, Britain is represented twice by the Foreign Secretary and the EU High Representative. Cooperation has helped fight Ebola and piracy in Africa. Those in opposition say Britain has very little influence within the EU. From outside, it can retake seats on international institutions and be a stronger influence for free trade and cooperation. Such are the arguments for and against, ladies and gentlemen. This anchor desk would like to see Britain exit the EU so that the international governing organizational format for the world is put on its heels so that people's cultures can be left intact and sovereign. Let the global experiment fail because the UN has shown its uselessness in so many situations that world governance by this body is largely and has been a complete failure to end war or economic strife. Given all that has preceded in this editorial, the question remains: how will this affect the good folks at home in Britain and the rest of the civilized world, including the good folks here in America? Basic necessities will hardly be affected at all. Luxury items are already expensive. Nothing will change there. As for migratory patterns, easy travel between the continent and Britain will likely remain pretty much the same, whereas refugee migrations from the Middle East will be checked substantially. Ladies and gentlemen, when heads of state like our own president or Osborne over there in England clamor and opine to citizens through the propaganda channels, which used to be known as news publications, it is dubious to the trained eye that what they say is actually factual or the truth. In fact, many times it's the opposite. The economic war between the East and the West is shrouded in theoretical disinformation because, in truth, most, if not all, world leaders are not economists, and whose reliance on universities staffed with economists who are clapping penguins, begging for more government grants, is merely another wing of the propagandist state of affairs. The British pound and the euro itself will be met in the forex markets with wild swings up and down for a short period of time as the world's largest financial institutions and the central banks, along with their high-frequency trading platforms, go on full display in the rebalancing act of asset management to minimize loss or, in some cases, maximize gain. There are already several trade wars being waged simultaneously, ladies and gentlemen, like the recently reported here trade war of steel dumping by China that is being waged on the West. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, as regards tariffs, America, for instance, has, in places we speak, over 12,000 tariffs on the books. The people of Britain are beset with the socialist capital structures imposed upon them by their political system. Their economy is an example of a highly politically managed economy that, in many cases, through their politicians, has been wrong in adopting many policies which can't be covered in this report. Economics is called, and as many have denoted, the dark science. The reason for that is simple. Economists have rarely been able to predict the behavior of the broader market. All one has to do to come up to grips with the fact is witness the remarks of the central bankers themselves when it comes to central banking policies governing interest rates in any given period of time. And off the script, ladies and gentlemen, what I can tell you is that their remarks, if you read the paragraphs, are so murky, it would take a mind reader to figure out exactly what they mean. Their job is to keep the traders off balance. That's what they do. Now, there will be a leveling effect that will occur in either event of the vote in Britain for or against leaving the EU. It is likely retail traders, if they're smart, will remain on the sidelines until the leveling occurs and can be dealt with more predictably. The unelected super bureaucracy in Brussels is being put to the test. German European hegemony is being challenged with this vote as well. The central bankers of the world are still clueless of any long-term effect regarding their economic policies. It's just they want you to think they really know what they're doing. The fact is, as many of us know, they're only guessing. Anyone who thinks differently, especially the whining traders engaged in the world's capital markets, is merely a would-be wolf waiting to be skinned after the slaughter. As for the average citizen everywhere, the watch phrase, neither a borrower nor a lender be, and what that implies, might be something to recall as good advice. Again, this is Scott Pollack, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago, reporting. Thanks again for watching another Goldwater report. We'll be back with a report about tariffs and the travails of one Ms. Dawana Hooper Breedlove Samimi, daughter of the former famed world land speed record holder Craig Breedlove of Spirit of America fame, and all of the things that she went through. And that regards Philippine money and Iran money and the prison system in the United States. We'll be back soon. That is all.